Was Jesus a vegetarian? The answer is very clear in the Bible. Luke 22:7-8. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us, so that we may eat it." Now the Passover meal, historically and by tradition and by law, requires that the centerpiece is a roasted lamb. In Exodus 12:10, it is an instruction for Jewish family to prepare a roasted lamb for Passover. During this time, there is no separation of church and state, and it is a requirement that Passover meal should include a roasted lamb. The vegetarian try to counter this by saying that Jesus is a Nazarene, an essence, people who breaks the law of the Jew. But remember that every time Jesus breaks the law of the Jew, it is recorded very clearly in the Bible, because it is a very important thing when Jesus breaks the law. So when Jesus preached about healing on the Sabbath, or when Jesus preached about the law of Moses on divorce, that has been clearly recorded in the Bible, because they are very important things. But there is no such record that Jesus declared that his disciples or himself should not eat roasted lamb or any meat. There is no record that Jesus exempted himself from the roasted lamb served in the Passover meal. And there are 3 other clearly recorded dinners that Jesus has attended, aside from the wedding in Canaan, aside from the dinner with Zacchaeus, where roasted lamb were served, and there is no record for Jesus exempting himself from eating the main dish, which is the roasted lamb. In fact, in Matthew 15, verse 18, Jesus was asked about the Jewish law with regards to certain animals being eatable and certain animals being unclean and non-eatable. And Jesus answered that things that come out of your mouth come from the heart, and those are the things that can make you unclean. But whatever comes to your mouth by way of food does not make you unclean. This is a clear instruction from Jesus that there is no prohibition from eating animal meat. Further, in Luke 24, verses 41-43, Jesus ate fish. It says, "So they gave him a piece of a broiled fish and some honeycomb, and he took it and ate it in their presence." And in Matthew 15:34-37, Jesus taught his disciples how to catch fish. He blessed the water and told his disciple to cast the net on the right-hand side, and that's how his disciple caught a lot of fish. Also in John 21:5-6, Jesus, during the Sermon on the Mount, blessed the fish and the loaves of bread and distributed the fish and the loaves of bread to his followers. So Jesus instructed his disciples and his followers to eat fish, and he himself ate fish. So if Jesus can eat fish, why would you think that he refused to eat the roasted lamb during the Passover and any other animal meat? What is the difference between a fish and a land animal? This very clear narration of facts that happened and transpired during the time of Jesus cannot be controverted. Vegans rely on very ambiguous verses of the Bible. For example, a verse that says, "He who slaughters an ox is like one who kills a man." Now, how could you equate the killing of an ox to the killing of a man? Obviously, this is not a verse that you have to interpret literally. The meaning of this centers on the value of an ox as a special animal and the mental status and the moral status of a person who is capable of killing the ox. But it did not say that you do not eat an ox. There is a difference between a killing for food and a killing to harm. And another one, they said that because James was seen with a vegetarian sect of the time, and James was supposed to be the brother of Jesus, that Jesus also is a vegetarian. This is a very presumptive statement that is not enough basis to make a conclusion that Jesus is a vegetarian. They also capitalized on that incident where Jesus went to the temple and scolded those vendors who sold animals. But if you see that account, Jesus was also mad at those money changers, and he was trying to clean up the temple, not only of those who are vending animals, but also of those money changers and other people who use the temple like a marketplace, The essence of that story is about the temple being a temple and not to be used as a marketplace. But vegetarians and vegans twist this biblical verse to show that Jesus was mad at animal vendors. These vegans don't have anything solid from the Bible that expressly state that Jesus refused to eat meat or told anyone not to eat meat. In fact, he told his people that nothing that comes in from your mouth can make you dirty, but it is what comes out from your mouth because it comes from the heart. The only express verse that they could cite are those which are not found in the Bible, like the book of Jeroboam and the seventh fragment. Now these books are not part of the 27 books of the New Testament, and nor they are part of the Old Testament, because when the Bible was compiled 100 years after the birth of Jesus, they only compiled those books written by those who can trace their connection to the early Christians at the time of Jesus, and those which are not contaminated with their own local views. And there are a lot of these books that are excluded because they preach about polygamy, or they preach about the eating of certain kinds of food or the non-eating of certain kind of foods. And that's how this book of the seventh fragment was. It was written by one of those vegetarian or vegan sect, in which it puts words into Jesus' mouth, in which Jesus supposedly refused to eat lamb. But in all of those books, all of those written tablets which are connected to Jesus and the earlier Christians did not have that account, and that account has been ruled to be a falsity, a clear reflection of the principle of those pagan, vegan writers who wrote those books of the seventh fragment and Jeroboam. In fact, the rise of these vegans has been predicted in the Bible. In Timothy 4 verse 1 to 5, in the later times some will fall away from faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits and the doctrines of the demons by means of hypocrisy and lies. Men who forbid marriage, and men who advocate abstaining from foods which God has created to be gratefully shared in by those who believe and know the truth. Now the later times refer to this year around 2000. Most of the prophets of the time when the Bible was written, and even the likes of Nostradamus, are one in pinpointing that later times refer to the year 2000 AD or thereabouts. They were using the lunar calendar at the time, which is not yet our present Gregorian calendar. Nevertheless, all of those reference to the later day points out to the year 2000 or thereabouts. And it is in this year that vegans occupied Hollywood. Everybody in Hollywood now became vegan. This is the rise of the devil, and it's clearly forecasted long time ago in the Bible. If you can see these Hollywood celebrities who are preaching about ethics, but they themselves live in an unethical lives. So many celebrities who are vegans are involved in immorality, but they try to preach about ethics by saying that God is not ethical for allowing people to eat meat. They don't care about abortion, the murder of unborn children. They don't care about that. But they care about veganism, because that's how the devil has got into them. So many times in the Bible, it is very clear that God placed the animals on earth to sustain humans. Even back to the times of Adam and Eve, Genesis 3:21. And his wife, the Lord God, made tunics of skin and clothed them. So they are instructed to wear animal skin for clothes. When Moses was stranded in the desert, God sent birds so that they can trap them and eat them. When Isaac was spared from a sacrifice, Abraham saw a lamb and sacrificed the lamb for food. In Deuteronomy 14:3-20, there is an enumeration of animals that are eatable and those which are unclean and uneatable. Remember, Jesus was asked about this, and Jesus answered that nothing that comes into your mouth makes you unclean. It is what comes out of your body or of your heart that makes you unclean. So every time Jesus made a statement that contravenes the Jewish law, the Jewish teaching, or the Jewish religion, it is properly recorded in the Bible because it is important. There is no such record of Jesus telling the people not to eat animal meat. There is no record in the Bible in which Jesus refused to eat the roasted lamb which are served in the dinners that he attended, which is the traditional food of the Jews and the Palestinians of his time. These vegans and vegetarians could argue their cause in so many ways. But why would they lie? Why would they put words into God's mouth? Why would they deceive the people about the Bible? This is despicable. This is horrendous demonic act. This can only be done by people who are inspired by the devil. This cannot be the work of people who truly believe in God. These people are not true believers. They just use the Bible to deceive the public, knowing that people have a soft heart whenever the Bible and Jesus is being used. These people preach about ethics, but they are doing things which are unethical.